Thanks for staying with us on One Slot. Now, the combined effects of conflict, climate shocks, COVID-19, high food prices continue to drive up hunger and malnutrition in Africa, with the number of people lacking regular access to safe and nutritious food steadily on the rise. According to the United Nations World Food Programme, Zambia's malnutrition rates remain among the highest in the world. 48% of the population are unable to meet their minimum calories requirements, and more than 1/3 of children under 5 years stunted. On this segment, we will shift our focus towards Southern Africa and explore potential strategies, innovative approaches, and crucial actions required to confront food insecurity and hunger crisis. Joining us is Nicholus Obby. He is the District Agriculture Coordinator, Ministry of Agriculture, Zambia. Thank you so much for joining us on One Slot.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And going straight into conversations, I mean, we've seen the alarming reports from the World Food Programme, from the United Nations, even from the World Health Organization, all claiming to the alarming risk of the hunger crisis going on in Africa. So what are the potential alarming consequences of food insecurity in Africa?
Thank you. Really, Africa as a continent has not been spared when it comes to, food insecurity as well as hunger crisis. I think what we need to talk about now mostly is how then must we, as nations, or maybe as Africa as a continent, be able now to making moves that are going to help us to curb this food insecurity for our people to survive.
So how exactly do you feel that the government can do all of this and still tell us exactly how it has affected Africa? I mean, you talk about millions of people hungry. For example, take Zambia. How is food insecurity dealing with the people in Zambia?
Okay. Yeah, maybe streaming down to, maybe let me just first talk about, the sub-Saharan Africa. Where we're saying that it's actually, faces the highest rate of undernutrition in the world. Actually, we are saying 1 out of 5 people faces hunger. And this is actually due to the ongoing conflicts, 1, also the droughts, 2, as well as the surging food prices, as well as the inequity and the weak infrastructure, which have been driving hunger. So then now maybe coming down to Zambia, to speak of my country, the government is at the center stage as well as the private sector, to try and put, the workable solutions that are going to help our people or the population, to curb this food insecurity. And some of the, the measures that we can say the government is putting in place is actually, trying by all means to support the Ministry of Agriculture, which is at the center stage, of actually, giving the extension advisory to our small-scale farmers who are actually the producers of this food, which is needed to help out, to curb or maybe reduce malnutrition, to help out when it comes to, for families to be able to put food on the table. So government must actually come in handy to
Nicholus, could you kindly unmute your device so that we can hear you? Could you kindly unmute your device, please? Can you hear me, Nicholus?
Hello?
Yes, please go on.
Yeah, so I was actually saying that besides the government, we have the private sector that must also play a hand to help government, because remember, private sector is also one of the arm of government that comes in handy to try and supplement the efforts of government. So the private sector also here, we have a lot of private sector, the non-government organizations that actually are on board to help out our smallholder farmers, to provide, for example, mechanization, to provide irrigation services, equipment. All in all, what we want to see is that, productivity is enhanced. There's also, this hand that must come in because one of the contributing factors has been, the surging, or maybe higher prices that comes with the agricultural inputs. To be precise, the fertilizer as well as seed. So those have been the hampering, hindrances to increased food productivity. So government is coming in by providing a subsidy to the farmers towards subsidizing the inputs, farming inputs. Because what we actually need to do is reduce the production costs, and then we are going to see an increase in the food produced.
Now, Nicholus, in reducing this production cost, you talk about collaboration between the private sector and the government. You are the District Agricultural Coordinator, Ministry of Agriculture in Zambia. What have been the challenges faced so far?
Yes, agriculture, to be precise, has never been spared from a lot of challenges. Some of the challenges that come, by the side is that, we are experiencing droughts. Let me just say the climate change is actually feasible. Quite seriously. It has hit the sub-Saharan Africa quite seriously. The effects that we've seen, just to mention a few, there's been drought, there's been also unplanned or maybe unplanned kind of floods that have just been hitting our farmers quite seriously. They produce thinking that they've done something for the season, and then you just see these flash floods that actually have been coming to wash away the nutrients, the fertilizers that farmers have been applying. So these have quite a serious impact on our rural households, such that most of the households have been left without food. And we are actually trying to say, in as much as government comes in to try and provide inputs, subsidize the farming inputs to our farmers, the private sector provide the technical services, provide, these mechanized equipments to enhance agriculture. But then we have this uncontrolled, uncontrolled enemy, so to say, which is actually climate change. That now we just need, I think, to come on ground and plan ahead. And government must actually step up and help our small-scale farmers, with probably maybe providing services of early warning when it comes to floods, when it comes to droughts.
What impact has the Farmer Input Subsidy DON program had in Zambia? Because we heard about that Farmer Input Subsidy. Has it gone enough or done enough to ameliorate the sufferings of farmers or to help farmers in the country?
Well, subsidizing farming inputs to the farmers, the initiative is quite good. The initiative, when you look at it at a distance, it's supposed to have a positive significance on the production, which actually is supposed to translate into, the reduced cost of food. But then I think what we need now is actually to conduct a serious study, to check on the impacts of the subsidy on the farming inputs in our country. What I can just say in a nutshell is that we have seen, to a certain percentage, an impact of subsidizing the farming inputs in our country. In that there are these smallholder farmers that are unable to access the farming inputs. Farming inputs have been expensive, especially if I'm to take you through the previous farming season. Very few managed to buy even just fertilizer and seed for a hectare, and that translates into we are actually going to see an increased prices in for example mealie meal, increased prices of just that normal food that is supposed to be put on the table, bread and other things. So the impact has been there to a certain extent. I have certain reservations, to be honest, because the category of farmers that we are actually supporting as government, I think they need a lot for them to be able to up the game to produce enough, for consumption as well as excess for sale. The smallholder farmer category, these are kind of farmers that are always looking up to, a hands-on kind of a service. Whatever we subsidize, whatever we give them, they are going to produce and then sell almost everything. Barely just after 3 to 4 months of production, they are already complaining of hunger. in their homes. So I think also as government, as well as the private sector, we have a lot to do with the, mind change. We need to speak to these farmers, do a lot of sensitization to try and improve. They are producing the food also to support their families in all sectors of socio-economic life.
Now, aside what is happening, I mean, we know the global effect of the Russia-Ukraine war and how it's so supposedly affecting the prices of food, especially stable food. We also look at regional cooperation. You look at the West African region, we have the Nicholus. For the South African region, we have the South African Development Commission. So what regional initiatives have been done or made to help countries who are in dire need of food supplies?
Great. Rita, I think there's been a lot of talks. There've been a lot of, conventions. There've been a lot of seminars. We have these bodies that need to help Africa to grow as a continent. Before I get to the question, let me just highlight to you that, there are certain solutions that need to be done, for us to curb food insecurity. For example, we are saying that there's need to increase intra-African trade. I've always been saying that Africa needs to trade within herself. This is going to help us, to curb food insecurity, because whatever we're going to be trading within ourselves, Zambia against Congo, Zambia versus Nigeria, the cash and the food is going to be revolving within the continent. So we are going to, to resolve issues of hunger crisis, as well as the economic, depressions that we have in our countries. So these bodies that we've just mentioned, that we have, I think they need to do a lot when it comes to, blending together, discuss, interact with the governments of the day. And then, because we've seen that, the political scenario is one of the contributing factor to food insecurity. If you are to look at some of the countries that we have, for example, even right there in West Africa, as well as in Southern Africa, we have countries that are quite rich with minerals, quite rich with land, quite rich with water bodies, but then they're experiencing quite serious hunger. So then you begin to question to say, what is government? What are the people doing with such kind of resources that are available to them? So these bodies that we have, they need to actually, these institutions, they need to up the game, meet up with our governments, discuss, share notes that are actually workable. If we are saying that technocrats, we are saying that what is needed is actually to provide, agribusiness finance. Let them then look into how best can it be done to be provided, and at what rate. For example, these loans that are being given to our farmers, are they accessible? How difficult are they for them to access and then be able to repay? So we have to look at also maybe issues of the interactions. Our farmers could produce. Do they have the markets? Those are some of the factors that need to be,
now, Nicholus, in building this market and talking about regional integration and cooperation, I mean, what came to my mind is the African Continental Free Trade Area. There's been a lot of discussions around it and how it's supposed to help Africa be more self-sufficient, especially when it comes to food and economy. Do you also share that light, or do you feel that this would give Africa the most dependency that it needs?
Outright. If Africa begins to trade within ourselves, what we are going to see is that there will be, these linkages that are going to be that we are going to see on a day-to-day kind of activities. We are. Let me give this scenario. I've been following so closely the president for Kenya. President Ruto, where he's been giving scenarios where you are trying to trade within yourself within the country. There's this institution, maybe an American institution within your country, and then they're asking you to pay in US dollars. And it is within your country. Why then can't you promote your own currency? So trading within Africa is going to help us, to be able to...
Nicholus, there's been an argument that the idea is good, but what about the implementation? It's been on for over 2 years. Has there been proper implementation of this wonderful idea that's been brought about by African countries?
Yeah, Rita, I think that one has got to do with our political leaders. That one is an agenda that is being pushed by our superiors, who are actually the governments in our countries, or maybe in Africa as a continent. So we need to see actually a very serious action from that. You know, that is very right what you just mentioned. We've seen and we've heard a lot of talking. They've been talking too much. They've been having conventions. They've been having seminars. But what we are actually now calling for as technocrats, we want to see that these talks come to actualization. So, we as countries, we as people, we as a population, we are actually willing, because we are actually some of the traders that have been affected by these, bureaucrats that we've been seeing, into challenges of just, transportation of actually goods. Just for goods to come all the way, by the road from South Africa up to Zambia, or maybe all the way up to Congo. They have to, they take quite long because of this bureaucracy which is there between one country into the other, all the way up to the other countries. So if our presidents, if our political leaders, can begin to actualize what they've been talking about, I think the masses are actually willing to take up the challenge. It's actually a very good move if you have to look at it from the economic point of view. It's going to help us to move goods within the shortest period of time, and then people are going to be accessing, their products, and they are going to improve in their day-to-day business activities. So that is going to help us, at a household level as well as at a national level in terms of increasing our household income.
Now, when we talk about food security, it's not just agriculture. We have livestock, we have fisheries also, and we look at more investment in all of that. Now, the World Food Programme is also complaining of aid, saying that they're unable to give aid to those in West Africa and in Africa. So what role do international organizations have to play in also assisting African countries dealing with this food insecurity issue?
Well, yeah. I don't see the reason why. I've not read around that as, to understand why they are saying they cannot give the African countries, or they cannot give support to African countries for them to actually increase their, capacity towards livestock and other entities. We have the capacity in Africa. Remember, livestock, we have this climatic weather which is favorable to agriculture. What I mean by agriculture, agriculture concerns livestock as well as crop farming. The environment that we have, the climate that we have, is favorable for livestock. We have plenty of pasture. We have plenty of water bodies to support, the livestock. So I don't see any reason why they would say they are not helping African countries or Africa as a.
Nicholus, you talk about so much land that Africa. Okay, Nicholus, could you kindly unmute your device, please? Nicholus, can you hear me? Could you kindly unmute your device, please? Nicholus, if you can hear me.
To create water for themselves, dams, and then solve the problems of probably providing water for the livestock. I think we can do better. They just need to give the support to Africa.
And without their support, how are African countries supposed to survive? Because we also talk about the devastating effect of climate change. You say Africa has a whole lot of land, but we still see a situation where the lands have been washed off due to flooding. So how is Africa supposed to survive?
Yeah, so there then, Africa has greater opportunities to survive. We have substitute, for example, when you look at the Southern African countries, look at the East African countries, look at the West African countries. West Africa, I've always mentioned that most of the countries there, you have oil deposits. We need to take advantage of that. East Africa as well as Southern Africa, most of the countries have a lot of precious minerals. We have gold, we have diamonds, we have manganese, mention them. What just needs to be done is that we need workable solutions, workable, ideas about, how governments can take full control of this. We need to mine these, these minerals. be able to, put up manufacturing industries, manufacture within our countries, and then export the finished goods, finished products. Not what actually has been happening, where the minerals are ours. We are exporting them raw, and then we are now buying the finished products at a higher prices from the outside country. That has been affecting us. So we have plenty opportunities besides agriculture that needs to be done. We need to improve on industrialization, mechanization when it comes to agriculture, put up manufacturing industries, then Africa is good to go.
Thank you so much, Nicholus. Mechanization, industrialization, investment in the agricultural sector is what is needed for Africa to survive this potential hunger crisis that we've witnessed. Thank you so much, Nicholus. Obby Mainza, District Agriculture Coordinator, Ministry of Agriculture, Zambia, for joining us on One Slot.
Thank you, Rita. Bye-bye.